How many books have you read in your lifetime, Strobridge?
Wow, what a question to drop on me this early in the morning. Good morning to you too, John.
Good morning. Good morning, Jeremy.
uh, and, maybe 50. Maybe.
Really? Oh, that's a good
Maybe.
number.
Not many.
Yeah.
I read more like towards the end of high school. So I got into like certain stuff,
I'm
but
ashamed. I'm
I've kind
ashamed
of
that
tapered off.
my number is like so low. Like I've probably read like maybe 10.
I read a few in the army when
I
I
mean,
was in the army. Did you
do
read any?
audiobooks count?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
that's what I'm saying. Half are audiobooks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That makes sense.
Definitely.
That makes sense. Yeah. So how you feeling, man? You doing all right today?
I got a hair at my butt, so I'm ready to rock with this stuff today. You got me inspired.
Well, I hope
Inspired
so.
and wired.
Oh, yeah, it's a very inspirational day. Well, today we're doing books and literature. We separately chose different books that have impacted us in whatever way possible, whether we read them or not. What were the four books that you chose for today's episode?
Okay. I don't think we'll show them in any particular order, so I'll just run them off the top of my head. Arabian Nights, Clockwork Orange, On the Road, and The Divine Comedy. Those
Very
four.
nice. Um, I chose The Hunger Games, Handmaid's Tale, Jarhead, and Harry Potter.
Good variety. We'll mix everything. I
Yeah.
like it.
See, I need to take a sip of
What
water.
made you choose those four?
Interestingly enough, I chose Jarhead. I chose because that was the first book I ever read completely.
Okay.
Um, I read that book while being homeless in New York with my wife, and
Okay.
that I picked up that book. I had watched the movie before, and I was like, let me check out the book. The book itself was there was a lot of stuff that was not in the movie that was in the book. Like
I was going to ask you about that.
one of the most interesting things about the Jarhead book was that there was a whole thing where Anthony Swafford, the guy who wrote the book, the Marine who wrote the book,
Right.
where he falls in love with this woman. I can't remember like the whole thing off the bat. Something about him having to leave her behind or they broke up. It was a very intense and I can't remember the full context of what had happened between the
Well,
two.
was that while he was over there? Like he met someone that was like an Afghani
It was
soldier?
I think it was an Asian woman that he fell in love with.
Oh. Hmm.
And it was that was one thing that stuck to me. That stuck to me in the
Hmm.
story. I don't know why. But yeah, I chose that. I chose the Hunger Games because one, I love the movie, I love the story, I love the concept, I love the world building that it does, and plus, there's going to be a new movie coming out, a prequel, called. The book has already come out. It's called the song, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Ooh.
It's actually the story about Cornelius Snow, the main villain, and there's actually I don't know if it's a show or a movie that's coming out with by Francis Lauren, but there's our
Hmm.
shots of the project out right now. I chose The Handmaid's Tale. I chose a very specific moment in Handmaid's Tale too, because one, it's one of the hottest TV shows out there right now, and two, I think if we listen to what the Handmaid's Tale story is telling us,
Hmm.
it could either be something worthwhile that could bring into a real world to to destroy us, or a story that could help save us. To stay away from some of these things that happen in The Handmaid's Tale. and Harry Potter. And I chose Harry Potter because I actually I had another book that I had chosen, Friedrich. And Friedrich was a World War II story about in the perspective of a German boy who sees his Jewish friend get pretty much like ostracized from the community because of his Jewish traits, which was going on during World War II. And I was just having a
Hmm.
hard time properly depicting what I wanted to see in the one scene, which the one scene that I wanted was the German landlord telling his Jewish tenant that he has to leave. Like this was a very major part in the book that I couldn't get out of my head for years. And that was what
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was something that I was trying to depict, but I couldn't get the feel that I was going for. It didn't feel right. I didn't feel like it gave it justice. So I had switched over to Harry Potter because I had saw this morning that the Harry Potter series is getting a reboot on HBO.
Really?
Yeah, and that each season is supposed to be a book. It's a whole new Harry
Wow.
Potter. Yeah, they're going to be following the books. Apparently, that's what I'm hearing. So I felt, you know what? Let me do it. Let me do a Harry Potter one. I think it would fit. I think it would be pretty cool to. I love the world that world especially. There is a huge lore behind the Harry Potter franchise. Just like, and if you notice, like the stories that we chose were all lore friendly. There is a wide lore with all these stories. Maybe not Jarhead,
Hmm.
because Jarhead is more of like it's true. It's a true story, and it's said to be
That's good.
the most accurately depicted war tale of all time. So, I think it's safe
Really?
to yeah. And if you really think about it, if you watch the movie and read the book, it's kind of pretty realistic. Some of the
I
things
mean,
that
yeah. I mean,
and I'm not talking about the
it is.
war aspect, but the things that
Oh,
happen inside. That no one ever talks about.
yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
that stuff reminds me of like just straight up boot camp. We went through a little taste of some of that ourselves,
We
not
we
to
went through
that
some
extent
we went
necessarily,
through
but
some stuff in boot camp that no one will ever hear. You know,
oh,
there
silly.
was a lot of fucked up things that happened in boot camp too, but a lot of things that we learned from it. We're gonna have to do an episode on that one day. So let's get on with it, man. Let's start off.
We got to get people to start reading books again. So
I
let's
know
let's
this is a
let's
good
get this.
start. So let's see what you got here. Talk to me about this one.
Ah, doom, 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 doom. I'm going to take y'all back to the years of the 1950s when beatniks were cool and they were the inspiration for the hippies of the 60s. Ah, I actually read this book. Uh, I tried to read it a few times and then I finally read it at some point. But it's On the Road by Jack Kerouac. It's basically the book that kind of started all the movements of the late 50s and 60s. The beat generation, if you will. I was
Okay.
really into that stuff. Still am. That might be one of them music playlists that we were talking about that I'll do down the road. But give you a quick little synopsis of it. On the Road, it was a novel written by Jack Kerouac in 1957. It was an autobiographical account of his travels across America in the late 1940s and early 50s. The novel follows the narrator Sal Paradise and his friend Dean Moriarty as they explore the country, meeting a variety of people and experiencing a range of cultures. Along the way, they encounter a variety of characters from the Beat Generation to the hippie movement and explore a range of themes from freedom and adventure to love and loss. This novel was a celebration of life and a call to explore and experience the world around us. It is a timeless classic that has inspired generations of readers to take to the open road in search of adventure and self discovery. And I was one of those.
Nice. So, what was there something about this book that really, what, like, why did you choose this one?
Because I still am, really got into the Beat Generation stuff. Like, I was a hippie, kind of considered myself like the,
Yeah.
what is it? It would have been a third generation hippie at that point, '90s kid. So I got into the history of it and the background of it. I wasn't just like a superficial, I'm going to dress like it. I want to know about this stuff. So I had a friend that was in college that took a lot of creative writing, college writing. I think he was going to be an English teacher. And a lot of the books that he would read, I'd ask him about and stuff. And there was a lot of good stuff. That was one of them. And movies, just anything I get my hands on. I really liked William S. Burroughs, a weird guy. He was a weird writer. Did Naked Lunch. They did a movie on that. I believe David Cronenberg did that.
Okay.
But it just all this stuff. Actually, when we start doing a radio show, I can tie a lot of stuff back to the Beat Generation: books, music, movies, history, politics. All that stuff is connected. All my useless knowledge will be poured into it, and it'll be useful for something.
I like this. And this one looks very photorealistic.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Dean Moriarty and Sal
Yeah.
Paradise, or Jack Kerouac and his real buddy Neil Cassidy. And you were saying you were having issues with Frederick, right? Friedrich.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you talked about, because I can show this is kind of my frustration with it, is that it was kind of giving me images of two similar looking individuals. But I figured, what the hey, we'll make it a modern piece. Like, okay, what if it was now? So these are
Yeah.
just two guys that would be on the road now.
Who
It
look
doesn't
like
really matter what they look like.
this is
It's
true.
it's the story of just being adventurous and going out and doing something on your own and
Awesome.
meeting people as you go.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yep.
Let's see.
You get
Uh,
them on random.
so this
Ooh,
one
that's a cool one.
is so like I said, I chose a very specific moment in The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to go into full
Nothing about this
detail.
book. I've just heard the title of it
Yeah.
many a times.
I bet you all probably thought I was going to go with the moment where you're going to see the handmaids getting tortured or something, something, but I wanted to go to the end of the first book. I'm not going to give out spoilers or anything like that, but there is a moment at the end of the book where there's a giant time jump, I think a couple hundred years.
Mm.
And so there's this event called the 12th Symposium of Gilead, and in how they say it in the book is that it's like they're studying what Gilead was, you know, like what was Gilead,
Yeah.
what happened down there. So this this scene right here is the end of the book where we have a man. He actually has a name. This character. Let me get it for you right now. So his name is. I want to make
And this
sure.
is this is the Margaret Atwood book, right?
Yes, this is by Margaret
Okay.
Atwood. Where is my notes here?
See, I've heard of this story quite a lot over the years. Excuse me.
Oh, here we go.
But I
Uh,
didn't realize. I didn't realize. Oh, go ahead.
you didn't
It
realize
was.
what?
I didn't realize it was done in the written in the '80s, or publicized in the '80s. I thought it was much older than
Yeah,
that.
and the story
It just sounds
goes,
that way.
so like the actual description is like Professor Pizzetto stands tall and confident at the modern style podium addressing a large audience of students and historians. The auditorium is grand with towering ceilings and ornate fixtures. The stage is vast, and I wanted to have like some type of representation of the handmaids, in which we see it here with the professor wearing a handmaid robe. And like again, we're
Mm.
talking about a historical symposium of the studies of Gilead, and that's this was the depiction that I had, and I love how this came out. I love how there is a representation of him wearing the robe to show,
Hmm.
to talk about the history of what was going on, to talk about the suffering that they had to go through, that these handmaids had to go through. And I think that this is a great depiction of the ending of that first book.
So how many books are there total? Three
I
or
think there's two of them.
two? Okay. I have to check those out. I didn't realize it was like a dystopian kind of future
Yeah,
story.
it's actually, well, the original I think was like set in the 80s or something like that. And
Hmm.
what's very important to understand about the story is that when the show, it makes it this futuristic, realistic tale that seems like something like this can happen eventually.
Okay.
I highly
From what I'm
recommend.
kind of reading in the background here, I can see where you're saying this could definitely apply to even nowadays without giving up the story too much.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
what you're saying.
And so, but yeah, the symposium I think is probably my favorite part of the whole book, the ending, because
Mm.
it gives a whole different perspective a couple hundred years after, and it talks about like what people thought of Gilead,
Oh.
and I'm not going to get into detail or spoil anything, but I think you would be very surprised at some of the things that you read at the end of that book.
Hmm.
Next one.
Hindsight, 100 years later.
Yep. Ah, this is beautiful, by the way. I love this one.
These turned out really good. I did, the Imagine part, and it gives me 4 pictures, and I was pleased with all of them. So I blew them all up because I was like, those turned out really nice. This is a depiction or just a picture of Arabian Nights. Um, I've never actually read this book, but I've heard selections from it because I believe it's like a bunch of stories. Really, it's all under considered the Arabian Nights. Was They were Middle Eastern folks' tales, yeah, and stories that were compiled in the 18th century. They were comprised of tales told by the legendary. Ooh, I'm gonna slash this name up. Razade, a young woman who was married to the Sultan of Persia. Each night, Sheshrazad Zaid, I'm going to just say the S lady, would tell a story to the Sultan, leaving him in suspense so that he would spare her life. The stories range from magical tales of genies, flying carpets, and magical creatures to more realistic stories of love, betrayal, and adventure. The stories are often seen as a reflection of the culture and values of the Middle Eastern region and are still widely popular today. And really, all of us know at least one of these stories. Like Aladdin, I'm pretty sure was in there.
Prince of the 40 Thieves.
Yeah, I believe there was a book just called Sultan of Persia. I could be wrong. Seems like there was. Um, this is a book I've kind of been wanting to get into more Middle Eastern history because for the last 40 years I've kind of been more uh, biased to European history, and I realize there's a lot more people out there in the world than that. So yeah, this is a book that I kind of want to check out actually. So I know very little about it. So this will be a short description on that picture. I don't even
I
remember what I
actually,
put in for
I
the
think, I think the Sinbad the Sailor came from that as well.
Sinbad. Yeah.
I think Sinbad did come from there. But um, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves was definitely one.
Yep. Yep.
Aladdin's Wonderful Lamp, which is actually the original story. Yeah, no, that this one. I love this one because it's it's like a painting that depicts emotion that is needed. I really
And
like
it
this
sticks
one.
to that style.
That
I think
art
I put in
style.
for a prompt. I do remember putting Renaissance era, even though I believe this was before Renaissance, but it at least gets close to that style of art that was in the books at the
That was
time.
depicted of it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. All right, next one. Ah, this is my Jarhead one. So I went
Cool.
with like a Niji anime style. I could not find I was having such a hard time with this one, like a hard
Hmm.
time with this one. I wanted I wanted a different scene, but what I actually really
Like
enjoyed more
more of
about
the oil rig scenes.
yeah, well, I what I wanted more was more like inside the tents of them getting branded. The scene where
Mm,
Troy gets branded, where they
okay.
find out that he's getting kicked out,
Hmm.
but they still
But
brand him because he still did the work, did he not?
he was
Is it that
basically the leader.
yeah, Troy, and for those who don't know, Troy the character, he enlisted into the Marines and he got kicked out because he lied on his enlistment forms, which if you are keen to some of the laws, the military laws about that, that's a no-no. And
But
so
not before he did 2 years of service or
yeah,
two tours, right? He got
yep.
2 tours or something.
And
He sneaked.
he ended up in the Gulf fighting a war that that they were going to kick him out. And this is a real person that we're talking about too.
Yeah.
He was an actual real person. And so I wanted the scene where Swafford and Troy find the oil fields. They're complaining that they've never shot a rifle, that they never shot their guns once at all. And I think that's a very true story to the military, how there's more people that probably don't shoot their weapons in the military than do.
Yeah. You'd be
And
surprised. Like you
so
go in thinking you're gonna do that and
yeah, so I
some
wanted
don't.
this scene right here to depict the moment where they find the oil fields, and with dramatic Niji fashion, it really like exemplified like them being like up close and personal to the oil field and things like that. This one came out so good. I'm very happy with the
Yeah.
final look of this.
Turned out really cool.
Yeah, you ready for the next
The,
one?
the, the oil saturation on the
Yeah, you
ground.
should see the
Yeah.
other ones I had too. There was a lot of other ones that I had a good time with that didn't make the cut.
Hmm. Hmm.
Next,
Next.
I'd
Next.
love to hear about this
Okay.
one.
Oh, so I got to go back to the actual root of my inspiration that
Yeah.
got me to the Divine Comedy. Okay. I had a thing, say, 97. The Fifth Element came out, the movie, and I had a huge crush on Mila
95.
Jovovich. 95. Oh, was
Yep.
it?
Yep,
Okay.
it was 1995, and I remember this specifically because
Wow.
when that movie came out, it was the only
Uh-huh.
movie of its time that had graphics of its caliber and actually looked
Hmm.
that good. Like they found a way to mix the green screen with practical effects, and it worked. It was it's one of my top 5 movies of all time. I yeah.
Jean Luc something. He does awesome movies. So Mila Jovovich, I got a crush on her, and that's the internet just started coming out, so I was able to like do stuff, search for stuff she's done, and she's done music too. She actually put an album out in the '90s, and it was called The Divine Comedy. So I was like looking that up, and then it popped up on Google that it was an actual book called The Divine Comedy, and I looked that up,
Really, that's interesting.
and I actually started reading it, and here's another weird fact, and this is I oh never mind, I'll just go right to it. So Dante's Inferno is part of this. There's like 3 levels that Dante has to. He's the character in this book that has to go through these different levels to get
Okay.
to heaven. He starts out in
Interesting.
hell.
I had no
They
idea that that was part of the Divine Comedy. I have to do
Yeah,
more research.
and they based a video game back on the PS3 from it. The Dante's Inferno. It was a kind of a rip off. I didn't think it was, but it was kind of a rip off of God of War, kind of. And in that game, it's just basically him going through the bowels of hell to find his woman. I don't believe he was necessarily had a love interest in the actual book, but in the game they made it that way. But there, just all these things came together for me to read this book, The Divine Comedy, and I never finished it. I read quite a bit of it because it's a very older, it's more Greek style poem, and written that way kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was really pleased with this picture, definitely, because this is in the book that I had of the Divine Comedy, this is the style of art you would have seen. Just like this abyss or all these levels of hell, or
The art
not
style is
necessarily hell,
very
the
it's very
realm.
classic.
Mm-hmm.
It's very classic. They're kind of like you open up a
Terminology
book,
for it,
yeah, like you.
dark
I
aging.
would
I
kind
don't
of
know.
consider this like kind of like 70s, 80s art in a way, like some of those old books, like the Garbage Pail Kids, like that. Probably
Mm-hmm.
the most
Or Frank
familiar,
Frazetta,
or Frank Frazetta,
kind of.
things like that. This is beautiful. You can see all the emotion. All right.
The
Mm,
pictures came out very easy for that one too, and I was very pleased with it. I think that might have been the first picture I started with, actually.
makes you wonder how much it actually knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it just comes out easy peasy, and then there's other times it's just
Yeah. All right.
it's searching. You can tell it's really searching.
So this one is a depiction of the Hunger Games during the reaping. I wanted a hand drawn style art with a sepia color to it, kind of like a burned sepia style.
Oh, yep.
So what I really love about this is obviously if you know in the Hunger Games they gather in the mornings right before the actual Hunger Games, and what they do is they literally pull names out of a bowl, and they choose the two competitors for the Hunger Games. And right here, this is a depiction of the citizens of this district. No specific district, just a district. We could even say that this might even be District 12 by the way that they're dressed. Maybe even District
Mm-hmm.
8 because District 8 is textiles. I know a lot about this lore, so don't mind me. Um,
More of the worker crowd.
yeah, the worker lower middle class crowds that are have to participate in the games. And you got the eagle up there, and that's like more like a statue, like with the representation of Pan M. Because as you know, Hunger Games has this thing with the mockingbirds. They use the birds as a symbol for them, and I love this. So this is actually one of my all-time favorite pieces right now.
I would almost say you said sepia in there, but this would almost pass as a wood engraving. I think it looks very wood grainy,
Oh,
like the
interesting.
old, yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but that's nice. That's really nice.
Especially on the right with the first three people there, it looks like that could pass as like a wood grain.
Yeah,
I
and
like it.
with those three people, look at the emotion on the three of them.
Hmm. They're not happy to be there.
No, especially the one
No,
in the middle. But there's some determination. There's a lot of emotion in this render here. All right,
I like it.
next,
Next.
the one
So
the. I mean, please, you look at this and you already know what this is.
yeah, anybody that has been around the last 30 years and has watched movies, probably's got a good idea of what this is, because this is pretty much stuck close to what most people think of when they hear Clockwork Orange. This book was written by Anthony Burgess. I'm just going to go based off what I remember. I'm not going to cheat and see what my notes. But he wrote this. They made a movie of it back in '71, I believe. Stanley Kubrick did. Yeah. So I tried to read this book a long time ago, but just like the movie, the terminology, the language, it's its own thing. So I don't believe I ever finished it. Um, I liked how this turned out because this was kind of like how you would see movie photo pictures of Alex DeLarge. He's the main character in the story. He's a young kid who's kind of a punk. He skips school and goes out and robs people and just causes all sorts of mischief. And put in a few I didn't have to fight this one too much. I just remember getting the four pictures and I was really pleased with them. And it kind of gave him a more uh, early 1920s look, not so much a
Yeah,
futuristic. I was kind of liking that. I was like, yeah, what if we change the era of when Alex DeLarge, was going through this? This could take place in any. type of society, really. Well, not any society, I guess, but
It's
of a modern society.
it can happen.
It could have happened in the 20s. I mean, what's the guys that was killing people in England back in the day? Jack the Ripper. That was the 1800s. So you could even go back then.
Mm.
A Clockwork Orange, 1880 style.
That would work. I mean, everyone. I mean, that seems to be the one thing that people are liking right now. They're going back in time and they're liking all this retro fittings for film and television, and it's working. It's working.
Giving a modern edge without screwing it up too much. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I like that. That was my last one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And now my last one. I
Yep.
made a depiction of
Ooh.
the global war of wizards from 1920 to 1945. This isn't actually something that's in the book, but it's been talked about many times in the Harry Potter books, in the lore itself. Uh, I wanted to do
Sort of,
something that was
sort of like a
interesting.
what if.
Not even a what if. Like they say that this
Okay.
actually happened.
Okay.
Like they're like, oh yeah, no, this happened. This is something that happened in the timeline, but we haven't seen it yet. And what I mean, I we don't know. Maybe this is Hogwarts in the background, but what we do know is that this is a battle between good and evil.
Mhm.
You know, good and evil, and that's what it is. You know that this I went with the Niji anime style. I wanted more anime for this one because I would like to kind of like see a Harry Potter anime or manga style version of Harry
I'm
Potter.
surprised they haven't done that.
Yeah, you know,
Honestly.
it's gonna happen eventually. And you know what? If it's out
Yeah.
already, excuse me. You know, but please, please let me know. But I think this one came out really good. We have a lot of emotion. We have a lot of colors. We have a lot of clouds. We see the streaks of the wands. We see the three characters pushing the wand.
That Niji style, I like that a lot. It's been a minute since I used Niji. I might have to go back to that and see what I. Oh, Johnny boy, you just gave me an idea for number 30, just to throw in with LF. A little Niji. See what we can pump out with
Yeah,
some
well now
Niji.
there's Niji 5, so let's
Mm.
these books are actually very popular. I mean, we didn't choose underground stories, we chose very popular
I try to go with
known
some
books.
classics.
Yeah, something that everyone knew about, and I was very happy to do this one. It was actually kind of tough to actually get the depiction that I wanted, the scene that I wanted, but at the end of the day we still got it.
It was a 50-50. That's how I felt like for this,
Yeah, yeah.
which is good.
So next week, you guys have been waiting for it. We are doing Lisa Frank.
Lisa. I think we should
That
have
sounded
like
so
glitter.
wrong. We are rendering images in the style of Lisa Frank.
That would have been true to 80s way of saying stuff, though. Next week we're doing Lisa Frank. Dudes, tune in.
Oh my
Tune
god,
out.
yeah.
Surfs up. You know?
Yeah,
That's what we're talking
and
about.
but we are doing beautiful renders of Lisa Frank. Send in what you have. You have a whole week. Send in your Lisa Frank images. We'd love to show them off. Join us next week. We have. Did we talk about the next episodes that we're doing after Lisa Frank?
We made up a list, but I think what we did is what we talked. We told the people up to 30. We haven't told them what was after that. So up to
Where's
what, 35?
my?
Well, if you don't have it, I think I have it right here. Hold
Yeah, I
on.
lost my notebook.
I got it. Okay. So we just did this episode is 29, by the way. It's books and literature. Number 30 is Lisa Frank. And let me just read the next five after that.
Yeah, go for it, man. Let's hear it.
Okay. So the episode 31 will be Starfield, the video game that'll be coming out here pretty soon.
In September. Yep.
Yeah. And then that's 31. Episode 32 will be Cute Animals. We're going to do some cute animals because Lisa Frank's not going to be enough. I have cute
Yep.
animals. So that's okay. 30, 31, 32. 33 is going to be nature and technology.
I'm excited for
Episode
that one.
34 is going to be Nintendo.
Yes, sir.
Nintendo. And
And
number
35.
35.
We'll give it till 35. Yeah.
Yep, 35 will be The Simpsons.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Good variety.
Yep. So join us for these next couple episodes, guys. You have any final words before we go?
Enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend, and make love and art. There we go. Sure,
That's right.
go with that.